Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
I'm mad as hell. I woke up wanting to see the world burn down yesterday because I'm tired of seeing black men die. He casually put his knee on a human being's neck for 9 minutes as he died like a zebra in the clutch of a lion's jaw. And we watch it like murder porn over and over again. So that's why children are burning to the ground. They don't know what else to do.
That right there is Killer Mike. He's an activist. He's a rapper. He's a lot of different things. And he's right. People are pissed. People are angry. You've got the perfect storm right now. You have people that are home, people that are scared, people that are frustrated, people that are watching the world in another way struggle with something that is insane with the coronavirus. Then you've got this situation last Monday where Derek Chauvin puts his knee on George Floyd's neck for almost 9 minutes, and eventually Mr. Floyd dies. It's caught on film. It goes viral, and it pisses people off. So you've got the perfect storm. People at home, people who are scared and angry, people seeing this and should be pissed off, and then it starts. It starts peacefully, and then eventually across the country, it starts to devolve into something that is absolutely unacceptable.
It is your duty not to burn your own house down for anger with an enemy. It is your duty to fortify your own house so that you may be a house of refuge in times of organization. And now is the time to plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize. Atlanta is not perfect, but we're a lot better than we ever were, and we're a lot better than cities are.
Yeah. And it's awful. Atlanta, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Santa Monica, Phoenix. You go across the country and, of course, Minneapolis and see what's going on. It is unacceptable. It is absolutely unacceptable. On top of all of that, look at what's going on. Look at who some of these people are that are out there rioting and who are out there causing the real hell. Not there to protest, but there to cause havoc, chaos, and mayhem. A lot of these kids dressed up in all black, got a nice feel of Antifa, breaking windows, doing certain things. You're just sitting there going, this is about chaos. This is about that's what they want. They want chaos. I want justice for George Floyd. I want to see this thing through all the way to the end. I want to see this thing. I want to see him prosecuted, and he is going to be prosecuted. Friday, they charged him.
Good afternoon. I'm Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman. I'm here to announce that former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin has been charged by the Hennepin County Attorney's Office with murder and with manslaughter. He has been charged with third-degree murder. We are in the process of continuing to review the evidence. There may be subsequent charges later.
And he's been charged. And that's good. He's on suicide watch. His wife filed for divorce a week ago. Just think about it. A week ago, his life was probably pretty good. Cop, Minneapolis, been there for 20 years. Life probably pretty stable. Flash forward 7 days later, the country's on fire. We're still trying to dig out of the coronavirus nightmare that is still going on, by the way. And this happens. And I don't think it's over by any stretch. I don't. I think there's going to be some more chaos, some more protest, and let's separate protest from destruction. Right? A protest is people going out marching, demanding answers, asking really tough questions, trying to start a conversation that will lead to change. Chaos, which is what we're seeing a lot of, burning buildings, destroying things, stealing stuff, riot, looting, and beating people, that's not a protest. You know, everybody holds up these signs. I've seen it. Violence, is the language of the oppressed, and and they quote Martin Luther King on certain things. But what they don't do is look at the entire quote and talk about the fact that Martin Luther King wanted to be like Gandhi, wanted to lead in that kind of direction. And both he and Gandhi said, if you have violence, right, if there is violence, at the end of it, even if you get some of the things that you may want, you'll also have more violence. And that's not the change that people are looking for. But I look at this. These aren't protests. The protests start, and somewhere out there, the others show up. And they're pissed, and they're angry, and they want to break the system. It's not about justice for George. It's about breaking a system, and they're using George as some sort of vehicle to get there because they want anarchy and chaos and craziness. And that is unacceptable. Should be pissed. Everybody should be pissed at what took place. Everybody. I've talked to God knows how many cops in the last several days. And they're, to a person, beyond pissed off, embarrassed, frustrated. But this is not the way to handle things. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. You can text the program. By the way, it's June 1st, just to let you know. June 1st. Crazy. March seemed to take forever. May and June have flown by. I don't know what June is going to bring us, but what I do know is we're still in the midst of a pandemic.
COVID crossing yet another alarming milestone. 6 million cases reported worldwide, and with more than 100,000 deaths in the U.S. so far, a warning from the CDC predicting that the U.S. could pass 115,000 deaths in less than 3 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know what that's going to look like. You know, we're still trying to figure out, do we open? Do we not open? How do we open? How do we go from point A to point B? And then you toss in all the civil unrest that's going on, and across the country, stores are shut down again. You've got curfews. I was driving in this morning. Curfew was from 8 p.m. to 5 in the morning. I get here about 3:15, 3:30. Producer Phil, you're in D.C. area. What's your curfew?
I think it's 11 o'clock.
It's 11 o'clock? Okay. And I know certain parts of California yesterday, their curfew changed from 8 p.m. to 6. And I was like, wow. So you toss that in with trying to restart an economy. That's crazy. And then you've got rent that's due today. So people across the country, some of which you've been without work or furloughed or whatever you want to call it from March, April, May, and now into June. And a lot of those executive orders and things that governors put out there, that was for 3 months. I think they thought, well, by June, right? Like, even if Trump's full of crap by June, April, but, it's going to be gone by April. Even if Trump's full of it, well, it's got to be gone by June. Well, it's not. And the economy's not up and roaring. So now you're in a situation where, what do you do? Rent's due across the nation, and it's going to be tough. A lot of people aren't going to be able to pay rent. A lot of people have been making certain choices. That $1,200 only went so far, and you've only got, another month of that extra $600 a week from the feds? What did they do with that? So you've got chaos because of the killing of George Floyd. Now you've got to also remember that civil unrest is everywhere. Social distancing is still a part of stuff, and who knows what that looks like, right? What's this look like in 3 weeks if we have another 300,000 people that have the coronavirus? And you could go, well, what happened? Yeah, there was 1 million people on the streets for several days. It's crazy. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. And with all of that being said, there was some good stuff over the weekend because I like good stuff, and there was some good stuff over the weekend. It took off on Saturday. SpaceX.
5, 4.
Saturday's launch of a Falcon 9 rocket carrying a Dragon crew capsule couldn't have been much smoother.
Liftoff of the Falcon 9.
The Sunday docking more picture perfect.
Dragon SpaceX docking sequence is complete.
Once inside the International Space Station, Bob Benkin said,
"We're just proud to be a part of the team that got to bring spaceflight back to the Florida coast."
The only apparent bump was the one that Doug Hurley appeared to suffer as he came through the hatch into the ISS.
Which is awesome. So, craziness, chaos, horrible pictures from around the country and the burning and looting and the rioting. Still have COVID-19. And oh, by the way, off we went into space. That's what May brought you. Who knows what June will? 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show, Twitter. You tweet at me. Hope you had a good weekend. Hot, hot, hot. Probably the best I could say about this weekend was hot. I think we like 112 on Saturday. I went for a walk early in the morning on Saturday morning just to get out and just start my day. Went for a nice walk. Did about 30 minutes. I got in the house. I was drenched because it felt, not only was it hot, but when you get up to even at like 7 or 8 in the morning and it's already 105, but the humidity's at 30%, it is ugly. And it was ugly. Car Shield, amazing, amazing company helping you out. I have Car Shield on my cars. I have an older car. I have a newer car. Newer car has the electronics, the widgets, all that stuff. Older car doesn't have any of that, but it's still doesn't have a ton of miles on it. But I take it for longer drives and things of that nature. And I want to make sure that my engine and my transmission is taken care of. That's why I have Car Shield. You call Car Shield and you tell them, hey, this is what I have. This is what I'm looking for. 800-CAR-6000, code Benson. They've got plans for you. Plans starting as low as $99 a month, and they will tailor fit a plan to fit your budget and the needs that you have. Whether you're more worried about your engine and transmission or the electronics on your car, Car Shield has it all. With it, you get 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while your car's in the shop. You choose the shop. They get them paid directly. Over 1 million customers, so you can drive with confidence knowing you've got coverage from America's #1 auto protection company. 800-CAR-6000. Code Benson saves you 10%. Or visit carshield.com. Carshield.com. Use code Benson to save 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
No fake outrage here. Just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
So, coronavirus everywhere. Still. Check this out. The UK. Having sex in your own home with someone from a different household is now illegal from today. So starting at 11:30, which was a few hours ago, a new law will be introduced in Parliament that bans two people from different households in England gathering in a private place during the coronavirus lockdown. The amendment to the Health Protection Bill states no person may participate in a gathering which takes place in a public or private place indoors and consists of two or more persons. Anyone breaking the law can be fined £100, halved, if it's paid within 14 days, meaning £50. Isn't this so weird? That is so bizarre. Really? That's... goodness me. There we go. For all of the chaos, with all of the lunacy. And yesterday, by the way, in London, the U.S. Embassy was protested by many people in London about the death of George Floyd. Soccer stars around the globe, that their seasons are now continuing, were wearing armbands and some wearing T-shirts in tribute to George Floyd and the unrest that's going on here. But I just looked at that and I thought to myself, that's crazy. But this is, we've got a situation. And the coronavirus is not gone. I mean, think about that. Right? Black lives matter, all lives matter. Well, apparently right now, nothing matters. Because if we're really worried about it, I understand the protesting, but if we're also worried about what potentially could come from this and the spread of this, What's that look like? This is Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms on the other side of everybody getting together.
Yesterday, around 11:30 last night, I realized that I hadn't looked at our coronavirus numbers in 2 days. And that's frightening because it's a pandemic and people of color are getting hit harder. I am extremely concerned when we are seeing mass gatherings, and we know what's already happening in our community with this virus, that we're going to see the other side of this in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think there is going to be another side of this. I think there's a potential for this thing to I mean, if we're so worried about it, and a lot of people are wearing masks, but they're not wearing masks because the ones that are causing chaos are wearing masks because they're not worried about the coronavirus. They're worried they don't get caught on television. But there is something that potentially could happen here that could be something else that nobody's taking into account, because right now people are so pissed and so angry, and rightly so. What happens if we have a massive spike in these cities over the next several weeks because of this?
And so, again, we are losing sight of so many things right now, losing sight of the fact that there has to be change in this country as it relates to race. Right now, we're talking about cars being burned and businesses being vandalized. And there's still so many issues that are right before us that we've lost sight of.
Yeah. Mayor from Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, right there. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this on the other side. Everybody has the right to protest. Everybody has the right to assemble and do that and absolutely get out there and have your voice heard, but also understand that during the pandemic, while everybody else is screaming, don't go outside, don't do this, don't do that, and then they look and they see and they want to go outside and do that there will potentially be a spike. Doesn't mean everybody's going to die from it. But understand that we've forgot about the fact that there's a pandemic. I mean, the only thing, you think about this, what has wiped the pandemic for all intents and purposes off the front page of everything in the last week has been the unrest. And will there be repercussions that we're not seeing now, but maybe in a few weeks we see? It's possible. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. You can text the program as well. It's June 1st. What's that mean for renters? Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
It's not the racist white person who's in the Ku Klux Klan that we have to worry about. It's the white liberal Hillary Clinton supporter walking her dog in Central Park who would tell you right now, oh, I don't see race. Race is no big deal to me. I see us all as the same. But the minute she sees a black man who she has a slight thought against, she weaponized race like she had been trained by the Aryan Nation. A Klans member could not have been better trained to pick up her phone and tell the police it's a black man, African-American man, come get him.
Van Jones, he's right. Let's talk about that. It's Amy Cooper last week and the incident at the Rambles in Central Park where she was asked her by a guy that was bird watching who happened to be black, said, hey, your dog's not allowed to be off the leash in this area. And she just lost it. And she lost everything, by the way. The dog's gone. They took away. She's lost her job, the whole 9 yards. But it was funny. I was laughing. I'm like, there's somebody who didn't vote for Trump. But is out there, and the first thing they do is they flip. I was joke about guilty white people, but it's true. It's true. Now, do I think that racism is like, it's so funny. You talk about this, right? You can't have a conversation about this. And then people start chiming in. So, it's the racist it's ever been in history. I say, I think you find other parts. of time in history where you could find racism a little bit different than what it is now. Do biases exist? Yes. Have there been biases? Is there racism? Absolutely. Are there biases? Yes. Has the system failed and favored white people over black people? Yeah. Over the last God knows how long. But it is also at the point over the last umpteen years where it's favored people who have money over anybody else. But hell yes, it does exist. Is it rampant? Because it's one of those things. We have 275 million incidents a year where police are called and come in contact and interact with people. Think about that for a second. 275 million incidents a year. We have 1,000 deaths. It's pretty minuscule. This was caught on video. It was heinous. He should pay the price, whatever that price is. They may charge him with more later on down the line. Right now, they got third-degree murder and they got manslaughter. There'll be an autopsy complete. They've got the first medical report that says that he had underlying conditions. That George Floyd had, hypertension, heart disease. He had underlying conditions, that there wasn't any strangulation or asphyxiation. Now, Michael Baden, Bader, who's the guy that is he's the famous medical examiner, ran New York's medical, examination and coroner's office for years. And you see him on HBO and they call him in when, he's essentially for hire. And he flew out and he's going to do a separate autopsy that the family requests. And I can guarantee you what he's going to find. He's going to find that there was strangulation, that there was asphyxiation, and that's where this is going to go. I talked to an attorney on Friday, and she said, if I was, based on the first medical that we've seen, if I was Derek Chauvin's attorney, I'd be doing the happy dance. If that's true, that there wasn't any strangulation. Which is awful, right? Because a man died. But now we need to see it play itself out in the courts. We need the system to work, and we need to do it in front of everybody in the world to show that the system can work. I don't think people often realize that's, you need to see that. After World War II, and they caught all these Nazi leaders, like Hermann Goering's and whatnot. And they put them on trial because they wanted the world to see that this is how the system works. They could have executed him. They could have shot him. But it wasn't about that. It was about Nuremberg. It was about the trials. It was about putting the people who were perpetrators on trial so the world could see. This is how you do things. You're bad. But rather than outlaw justice, we're going to do this the right way to show you that the system can work. And that's what we need to see. And that's what the country, I think, wants to see. No, some people like to take this guy out and shoot him. But that's not what we do. It's not how we do. We have a system. And in many cases, the system has failed. And we need to show that the system can work, should work. If you want change, this is what change looks like. The change is the system does work on both sides. Sometimes people are proven innocent. Other times they're proven guilty. But all too often, backroom deals, slap on the back, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, or this person has way too much money and they're able to put together a defense that's incredible, has gotten people off. The system needs to work, and the world needs to see the system work. Whatever that system is, the man, whatever, it needs to. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. You could text the program. New poll out about the coronavirus. Talks about that most Americans still favor a shelter-in-place order over reopening. Now, this was pre what took place and what's going on right now. Nearly 6 in 10 independents say their priority is trying to control the virus spread. That's pretty big. Democrats favor it over the Republican side. 81% of Democrats say controlling the spread is the most important thing right now, even if it hurts the economy. Only 27% of Republicans agree. But the reality is, at the end of the day, it's about 57% of Americans across the board, adults, likely voters, who say controlling the spread is the most important thing, even if it means a situation where we see the economy struggle. It's about getting people healthy and fighting this thing. And look, I'm totally fine with trying to control the spread. And I think we've done that. But the problem is, like with everything else, we're never really good at getting back out of stuff. You go back and look at, wars that we've gotten into. Afghanistan, right? It's a perfect example. Iraq. We're good at okay, we're in this now. We've got this going. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to approach it. But we're not quite sure how to get back out. Even if you don't know how long this is going to take, you still should have had a situation where you knew exactly what you were going to do to get yourself back out there. What is the finish line of, okay, we've done everything we can to control it. Now it's time to step out and make the move in the right direction to start to rebuild. Even if it means this state may be in it 30, 60 days longer than this state, at some point in time, you have to ask yourself the question. And we don't seem to ever know. We don't seem to have uniformity of look, because originally it was, let's stop the spread, right? Then it was, okay, let's stop the spread and find a therapeutic. Then it was, let's stop the spread and find a vaccine. Then it was, let's stop the spread and we may need a few vaccines. And you're like, wow, we're where are we? How many of these things are we doing? It was never about getting to zero, because who knows what will happen to this virus. It could be seasonal and disappear in the next 3 to 6 weeks, and we may not see it again till November, December. Could vanish altogether, or it could be endemic. Remember, we have pandemic, which is what we're in, right? And then you got an epidemic, a certain geographical area, and then you have endemic, which means it's here. We're going to have to learn to live with it. And that may be where we are at this moment in time. So how does that work? What does that look like? Because today's June 1st, and you have many people who are trying to figure out how they pay their bills. Across the country, many of those renter protection orders started expiring about 2 weeks ago. And renters are trying to say, well, hold on, we can't work, I can't do this, I can't do that. Totally get it. I mean, let's be real. This is unprecedented in human history in any modern times. But at the same time, people also have mortgages to pay. People also have, their business is this. They're landlords. How do we go from point A to point B where we understand and can sympathize and at the same time realize that, no, something's got to be done. People can't pay for stuff. Landlords are getting a little, what happens?
We just need the rent to be gone if we can't work.
We can't work. We can't pay.
Renters line the streets and circle in cars, calling this rent strike. It's the first day of the month and nearly $50 billion in rent is due in the U.S.
If a lot of us are already choosing between food and rent, we're saying to choose food?
Yeah. And that's understandable. But on the other side is, and when this thing first came out, I said, first and foremost, if I'm the government, I'm covering mortgages and rent for landlords and big companies for the foreseeable future, rather than a lot of the other stuff that was going on. Making sure that this is the way things are done until we can get people back to work. And then also not just getting people back to work, in some cases allowing people to go back to work. Then that's a good place to start. But that's not what happened. States took it upon themselves, as we do individually, to go about doing certain things. And landlords are looking around saying, well, hold up.
Renters have been sharing warning letters from landlords online. One warns rent is due on the 1st, nothing has changed. And this one stresses rent is still due. If you've been laid off, it adds, places are hiring, like grocery stores, Amazon, Walmart, and more.
That's very true. So what happens? That's the question. Today's June 1st. People across the country are going to find out. They're going to start getting serious letters, and you're going to start to see situations that is going to make it even more tense than it already is. In a time of chaos and craziness with the pandemic, the unrest that's going on, and now people have been at home for months, some struggling financially even before this, now in a hole that they may never get out of at any given point in time in the near future. And now I can be faced with, what do I do? And landlords are doing what landlords do. It's a business. At some point in time, it's no longer a charity. It's a business, because you're facing a situation in many cases where you could be in trouble because you're paying somebody for those mortgages. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. You can text the program as well. AMAC, Association of Mature American Citizens. You can join for free today. AMAC.us/Chad. One of the things they're doing right now is they're lobbying the government on your behalf in such a way that I think is great, because I think it's true. They're going out there and saying, hey, we need to start making things like our pharmaceuticals here in the U.S. We don't need to depend upon China anymore. We need to make them here. And those are the kind of things, on top of going out and fighting for common sense immigration reform and Social Security reform and Medicare reform. They're doing things like that, and it's a good thing. You can join it. It's free. It doesn't cost you a penny. And want your credit card, just go to amac.us/Chad. Sign up today. It's simple. It's free. And again, it's easy to do. amac.us/Chad. amac.us/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
You go, boy.
This isn't about right or left. This is just about right and wrong.
Right you are, Chad. The Chad Benson Show.
They're calling it Blackout Tuesday. Major music labels, including Atlantic Records and Warner and Capitol Music Groups, all joining in a music industry call to make June 2nd, quote, a day to disconnect from work and reconnect with our community, all as a show of solidarity, 1 week after the death in police custody of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Other prominent labels, as well as Apple Music and Spotify, also posted social media messages of support and calls for accountability and change as protests continue across America.
Yeah, we'll see what happens tonight. It's when the sun goes down and many curfews across the country. But tomorrow is a day to, I guess, listen to music? Is that what it is? When I first saw it, I'm like, are we not supposed to listen to music? Is that what we're supposed to do? I can't tell you what we're supposed to. I got YouTube, so I don't listen to music. I got YouTube right there. I got YouTube Red too. So I don't have to watch the commercials. Oh my God, you're so crazy. Speaking of that, I got the Quibi. So I tried it for a month, see if it was any good. If you don't know what it is, Quibi it's made for phones. So it's like Netflix for phones. Each little show, which all the way has big stars, Christopher Waltz and you name it. I mean, there's massive, massive, massive stars. Kevin James got something coming out very soon called Becky, and he plays a white supremacist who breaks out of prison. I mean, it's a trip. The problem is there's just nothing on it. Like, there's maybe 20 or 30 episodes of 20 or 30 shows. And they wanted to take on Netflix. They wanted to do those things. Here's the problem with that. You've got to have a deep library of stuff, right? You need to be able to go on there and have 5,000 things to choose from if you want people to subscribe to your service. And it's only like $4.99 a month. And it's not meant for the computer. It's not meant for your TV. It is meant strictly for your phone and your small tablet. That is it. That is it. So don't think, ooh, what is this? It's really neat. There's some neat, and every episode of something is under like 8 or 9 minutes. So they play an episode, it's like 8 minutes. And they got an episode, it's 8 minutes. Like, I was excited because there was all this cool stuff like the 50 states of fright. And every single state has their urban legend of all these directors. It's only got 3 states so far. I'm like, this thing's never going to work. Because it failed because you started too soon. You didn't have enough. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Here we are. It's June. You paying your rent? You worried? We're still in a pandemic. We've got chaos, craziness, and anger nationwide because of the death of George Floyd. We've ticked over. We're halfway through the year, and it's been one wild year already. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Don't spray stuff on here when they gonna blame black people for this and black people didn't do it. If we wanted you to do it, we would have asked. They not gonna show y'all faces when they see that on their building. They gonna blame that on us. Y'all are part of the problem. They gonna say we did that. We didn't do that. Stuff like this ain't right. Stuff like this ain't right. That's what the problem is. We out here standing together peacefully, protesting without any problems. You got people of all races spraying on buildings talking about Black Lives Matter. That ain't even us.
Yeah. I saw a lot of that. You see a lot of these looters, these rioters, they're Antifa-likes, chaos. They're here to cause trouble, mayhem, and they're pissed off. They're Bernie supporters. They want to bring the system down. The system is inherently bad. It's racist. It's all bad. It's not equitable. It needs to be destroyed. And it doesn't matter what it is. It started several years ago with the World Trade Organization. WTO had the thing in I think it was 2005 in Seattle. And since then, it has grown exponentially. And over the last several years, we've seen the rise of Antifa. You see a lot of these people out there who are destroying things, who are causing hell, who are causing havoc. And you know what? They don't care what it is. They're not out there for George Floyd. They're not out there to protest. They're out there to try to bring the system down. And that's not right. It isn't. What's going on isn't right. I'm not saying there's not people that are pissed and angry and are doing things by destroying everything they possibly can because they feel like they're absolutely just, hey, they're pissed at the world and they're black and this is what they're doing. Yeah, there is. But a lot of what you're seeing out there is pissed off, angry suburban kids who are like, we're going to bring the system down. And the entire time, I'm going to film it on my Apple iPhone because the system's bad. It's crazy. And that woman is black. And she's like, hey, you, stop spray painting on Starbucks. Stop destroying stuff, you white chicks. Because we're going to get blamed for it.
You got police officers coming to a peaceful protest spraying gas on us. We ain't even did nothing. Don't let the media fool you. When they see the vandalism on these places, know that it wasn't us. And when you see stuff like that, you're supposed to stand up and say something. Don't spray on these people's buildings. That's not our message. That's not helping us.
No, it's not. On Friday, I watched, and you saw several situations across the country where they were taking to the highways and they were stopping cars, and there was a guy got out with a bow and arrow, and they stopped him. Thank God. I mean, there was somebody with an AR-15 and they got to him, but there was a guy that had it looked like a Tesla, and he just got caught up in it, and people started jumping on his cars, and they're jumping up and down, and you see some other protesters run over and grab him and the other guy, and they bring him down, and they start screaming at him, and they go over and apologize to the guy, saying, this isn't what it's all about. Because I think the vast majority, and by vast, I mean 99%, they're angry, they're pissed, they want change, they want their voices heard, but they don't want to burn down their cities. They don't want to see people who are already struggling inside of their cities because of the coronavirus and the stop down in the economy have their stores destroyed and never, ever rebuild, because who does that hurt? That hurts them. Absolutely. But it doesn't take a lot for it to get ugly and nasty. It doesn't take a lot. You've got a perfect storm. People at home. People who are frustrated, who are scared, who feel like there's already tons of inequities in the world, feel like that they're caught between a rock and a hard place of nothing. They got nothing, feel like they're not going to get anything, just struggling to live day by day. And then you've got other people out there who are fighting the good fight, working every day, busting their butts, feel like that no matter how hard they busted, they're not getting anywhere. And then they see this happen last week, and it angers them, it pisses them off. So you couple the terrified of the coronavirus, losing everything, have nothing, staying at home, watching this, seeing what's going on. It is the perfect storm. And then you've got other people who are coming in from all over to come to these rallies and protests to do what? They're not there to protest George Floyd. They're not there to protest the treatment of George Floyd. They're not there to protest for any of that. They're there to cause hell. And what do we focus on? The hell. We're not talking about George Floyd. We're not talking about a guy who seemed to be all across the board. Just a real guy who'd probably been through it, right? Probably been in a position of looking out there and seeing what was going on in the world, seeing these young kids. We talked about it last week with some of the stuff he had talked about on some videos he had done about seeing young black American, in particular men, get out there and think they're bigger than they are, talking a big game, turn into crime, turn into violence, because he'd probably lived it all. Been there, done that, telling everybody stay away from that. And then you've got these people going nuts, going crazy, breaking a bunch of stuff, and you just sit there and you think to yourself, exactly what is this again?
We cannot allow in America for this kind of anarchy to continue in the name of George Floyd, which is really unfortunate because that's what they're using as a vehicle. When in fact, George Floyd and the death of George Floyd has nothing to do about this looting and stealing. You go into a store and you steal a television. What in the hell does that have to do with what happened to George Floyd?
Nothing. Floyd, by the way. Ted Williams, former law enforcement guy, understands people's anger, but at the same time, you're taking away the message. You're taking away the message. We should be having a conversation about this. We should absolutely be having a conversation. But instead, it's turned to chaos, and it's turned to curfews. It's turned to looting and rioting. It's turned to several different things that are going on out there in different places. And it's turned to people who are professional agitators. That's what it's turned to. And that's not good. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. You can text the program as well. Coronavirus still going.
COVID crossing yet another alarming milestone. 6 million cases reported worldwide. And with more than 100,000 deaths in the U.S. so far, a warning from the CDC predicting that the U.S. could pass 115,000 deaths in less than 3 weeks.
3 weeks. 115,000 deaths. Bigger than I thought it would be. Nowhere near what the 2 million that they thought was. I mean, we're not even close. We're not even at 1 million worldwide. So, but it is still a situation where you look at this and you're like, all right, where do we go from here? Majority of Americans still want to continue the social distancing and the slowdown until we get this thing under control. But much like everything else, what does under control look like? It was never meant for us to get to zero. It was never, ever, ever, ever meant to us to get to zero as far as cases go. How do we reopen? Because we still have that. It's June 1st today. People are still going to be looking to figure out how they pay rent. Across the country, many of those executive orders are expiring here. Either they've expired in the last 2 weeks or they're expiring today. And people are going to be asked, okay, can you pay rent? Can you pay your mortgage? With all the chaos, the lunacy, the craziness, the anger that's going on out there, there's something else. There's still the pandemic hanging out. There's still the economy that is just flagging and slowing down and going backwards, and the mass unemployment, 41 million people in 10 weeks. I don't know what happens, but I know at some point in time we're going to have to go, all right, we've got to get back at it. How do we get ourselves back out there sooner rather than later? What do we do? Because right now the focus is on the unrest, understandable, but do realize that this is hanging out there. And on top of all of that, you've got a situation where what does this look like in a few weeks?
Yesterday, around 11:30 last night, I realized that I hadn't looked at our coronavirus numbers in 2 days. And that's frightening because it's a pandemic and people of color are getting hit harder. I am extremely concerned when we are seeing mass gatherings, and we know what's already happening in our community with this virus, that we're going to see the other side of this in a couple of weeks.
Keisha Lance Bottoms right there. She's the mayor of Atlanta. She's walking the line of you should be protesting, but stop breaking stuff, stop burning our city down. Understandable, you have the right to protest. There's First Amendment, you have a right to assemble and protest. This is gone beyond that. Oh, by the way, there's still a pandemic, and what happens if 6 or 8 weeks from now we look up and we've lost umpteen people and there's been massive spikes everywhere in the next 2 weeks that has put pressure on hospitals and everything, or there could be nothing. You don't know. But we're still not anywhere near figuring out what to do with the damn coronavirus and how we reemerge from it. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Your Twitter, tweet at me, text the program as well. Again, June 1st. May flew by. April flew by. March was the longest year ever. Just feels like it's still going on at times. God, what a crazy chaos. If you think about where we started. Think about where we started at the beginning of the year, right? It's 2020. Everybody's out there. We're going to work out, get fit. We're monitoring what's going on over there in China. And then we start to see a few cases here and there in Europe. And we've got a couple of cases here. But it's nothing that we're like. And then within 6 months, 40 million people have lost their jobs. Many businesses, maybe in some areas as high as 2 out of every 4, so half, 50%. But in a lot of places, 1 out of every 4, they're never going to return. It is nuts. Then you've got what's going on with the unrest with George Floyd. You've got no sports. We have no entertainment. And then we fired off a rocket on Saturday that docked with the space station yesterday, and it was part of Elon Musk's SpaceX private partnership with private public thing. It's crazy. It's like, this is the weirdest year ever. In my 49 years, of which I probably can remember 45 of them, like, kind of, this is the weirdest by far. Lightstream, want to save you money. Want to save you money? That's what I like to do. Lightstream's here to help you. Credit card consolidation loan. You can get it from Lightstream, and you can save thousands in interest. Get a rate as low as 5.95% APR with autopay and excellent credit. If you're tired with high interest credit cards, high interest rates, paying off your credit card balance, start saving money now. The rate is fixed, so it's never going to go up. There's absolutely no fees. You can do the application on your phone. So easy. 100%. That fast. It's awesome. I want you to try it now. If you're sick and tired of seeing those ridiculous 19% APR, which is the average, get away from those today. Apply and get a special interest rate discount by going to lightstream.com/Benson, lightstream.com/Benson. Subject to credit approval. Rate includes 0.50% auto-pay discount. Terms and conditions apply. Offer subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/Benson for more information. Chad Benson Show.
Experiencing separation anxiety? That's dumb. Check out Chad 24/7 at his website, ChadBensonShow.com, and on iTunes, free. The Chad Benson Show. Never feel lonely again.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? All right, let's take a look. What's trending? Start the magical world of Twitter. Where are the protesters? Washington Monument, Morning Joe, COVID-19, all trending, as you would expect. Jake Paul, if you don't know who he is, he releases a statement after being seen looting. Jake Paul is a YouTube star, has, I don't know how many followers. Got in trouble a few years ago with him posting some video at the suicide forest in Japan. And he's had more than a few run-ins with the controversy. But apparently he was at an Apple store and doing some other things. So he's trending, and not in the best way. Lots of curfews trending everywhere. Head on over to the magical world of Google. Pride Month. Yes, it's this month. Starts. Anonymous 2020. Hacktivists. They're the Hacktivists group. Anonymous takedown of the Minneapolis PD. Second stimulus check. Will there be some? Won't there be some? Riots in America, all trending. It's very interesting to see what will happen tonight. Antifa trending. Clint Eastwood as well turns 90. Says he's got a few more in him. Says he's not ready to retire just yet. I think that's, hey, if he's lucid, he's working, maybe not as fast as he used to be. Don't know how much acting he wants to do. He retired, and then he came out and he did Gran Torino, and then he did The Mule. Was it last year, the year before? But it says he's got a few more projects, and I think he's going to continue to work. He may have another 4 in him, 3, 4. Turns 90. Wow. That would be, I'd have 41 years left of work, and then we'll go from there. But if you love what you do, and I think he loves what he does, I think it's one of those situations where the passion's there. I don't ever think he thought it was work. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us more about the protests. Plus, masks, are they here to stay? And the oldest man in the world died. Wait till you hear what changed in his lifetime. It's crazy. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
White people need to stop being silent about our racism and complicit in the structural racist system in which we live and the white supremacy in which this country was built.
This lady is upset. Look, the country wasn't built. Like, I think everybody makes it out to be the country was built completely on white supremacy. Like, that's all it was built on. There were other things. And yes, slavery and the way that people of color, in particular African Americans, have been treated. These are questions that have been asked, and there's a lot of guilt there. But there's also, we forget that we have come a long way. We make it out to be. I saw that they were protesting in Italy this weekend. I was just laughing my ass off. I'm like, really? Really? First of all, the Italians by nature pretty much are of the Western Europeans. I'm not talking about the Ukrainians and some of the Russian, former Russian, Soviet states. I'm talking about Italy, France, some of these other the racism in there. They don't even pretend. Spain, even England. Yeah, I've been there, right? I've been there. Trust me. It's at times as bad as we have been, and we have been, and we got our skeletons, and they're no longer in the closet. They're out for everybody to see. It is just funny to watch the way that some people are like, But no, look, people of color and white people, if we're going to change, and I think we have changed tremendously, and there is still work to be done, but if we're going to change, we're going to have to do it together. We are. We're going to have to do it together. We're going to have to step in the direction that we want to go together. We are. And I think the majority, 99% of people in America want to see change. Want to see us move in the direction that we need to move in. What took place last week was awful. What took place last week was sickening to watch. Even Rudy Giuliani, the most pro-police person that you will find, I'm in a business where, look, I'm not right-leaning, I'm not left-leaning. Some things, I believe, more with the conservatives. Other things, I believe more with the liberals. I'm not talking about the uber progressives. But that's just the way I am. I take each thing individually. But in my business, everybody, a lot of people, a lot of my friends who are super conservative, or at least play that way on the radio, run out to defend the police at all cost. And they haven't, because there was no defending.
And I have to tell you, the shame of this is nobody disagrees. Nobody, white, black, or in between, disagrees that what happened to Mr. Floyd is an outrage. I am about as pro-police as you can get. I grew up in a family of 5 police officers. I worked with the police for 30 years of my life. And I don't prejudge cases, but I can't possibly not react to what that officer did. It was almost indescribable. He was warned numerous times that he might be killing the man. It just shocked me to see that the other 3 police officers didn't stop it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people were shocked. Like, what's going on? And there have been police across the country that have all said the same thing. And what that does is that message that is put out there because of what this officer did, the way he handled himself, makes it tough for police everywhere to police. makes it harder for them. And people are like, oh, why should we care about that? Well, you should care about that. You should care about that. Because the police aren't going anywhere. You should care about that because, once again, if we're going to get to where we want to get to, which is a more united country, we're never going to be united in the way that people think. We've got two separate worlds that we live in as far as conservative and progressive, red and blue, but it doesn't mean we as Americans can't get to the places where we agree. Racism, bad. Biases, inherently real, and that's bad. But we want everybody to have a fair shake. We want everybody to have a fair opportunity. We want everybody, regardless of race, regardless of religion, regardless of sexual identity or whatever identity you choose, regardless of any of those things, that you've got the opportunities that are out there, that there isn't inherently a system working against you. Doesn't mean we have to agree politically on everything, because we're never going to. My God, we're fighting over a virus. New poll out today. Majority of Republicans want to restart the country. Majority of independents and Democrats want to keep the country closed until we can figure out a way to fight this virus and get it what? But that's where we are. But just because we disagree on certain things doesn't mean we don't want to get to the same place. We just have a different path we want to take. Everybody, white, black, gay, straight, Hispanic, Asian, cop, non-cop, progressive, conservative, can be appalled and disgusted by what they saw and want justice, but want a fair hearing. Want to see the system hold somebody accountable. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. You could text the program as well. We were talking about it. It's been 3 years since Covfefe. 3 years. Do you guys remember that? You guys remember Covfefe? 2017, just before or just after midnight, Trump tweets, despite the consensus negative press, Covfefe. Apparently, he tried to type coverage, and it came out Covfefe. Remember those days when we were talking about Russia? We were talking about primaries. Remember those? Like, do you remember there were primaries this year? Like, we're 6 months in. Do you remember there were real primaries? Like, people were like, oh, my God, it's Super Tuesday. And it's like, that's so far. Like, I don't even know where that's at. Now what we know is we've got Biden, who is going to be there. I don't know who his running mate's going to be. And it's going to be important that this will be the most important pick of any vice president pick ever. Ever, ever, ever. This will be the most important pick because Biden, I have a feeling, once he's in there, he will announce not too far afterwards that he's probably not going to do 8. He's going to do 4. He's going to be the bridge between this president and whoever it's going to be, and that will be whoever that vice president candidate's going to be. The minute that she's announced, because he's already said it's going to be a woman, the minute that happens, her presidency and her candidacy is going. And Biden's been a little bit more vocal. He's been seen places talking about all kinds of things, including leadership.
You know, this is no time for incendiary tweets. It's no time to encourage violence. This is a national crisis. We need real leadership right now. Leadership that will bring everyone to the table so we can take measures to root out systemic racism. It's time for us to take a hard look at the uncomfortable truths. It's time for us to face that deep, open wound we have in this nation. We need real leadership.
Apparently Biden, I've said this is how Biden heals the nation, if you will. He bores everybody to death. Trump is a lightning rod. tweets out, if there's looting, there's shooting. Well, that was a famous saying from a Miami, was it a sheriff or chief back in the discord of the 60s and the civil rights movement. And Trump's like, I never didn't know, he does what Trump does. And I know a lot of it's to get a rise out of people. And yeah, there is certain dog whistles and things that he does that pisses people off, and people have every right to be. At the same time, there's also tons of overreaction on we were talking about Covfefe. Covfefe was a deal. Like, people talked about it. Like, it was a big deal. And you just sit there and you're like, there's things he does just to get a rise out of people. Absolutely. He knows who his base is. He plays exactly to his base. And there's no expanding of that base. There isn't. I think he's got a tough road in front of him. A lot can change, though. Have we seen in 6 months? We could be in a place 6 months from now. They're like, wow, I can't believe we got 35 million of those 40 million jobs back. And now we're going to almost break even with our GDP because we've had, and this thing is gone. And that could all change between now and November. But it's chaos. It's craziness. Totally is. And I just sit there and, man, I'm like, wow. But one thing, though, Biden and the Democrats, they're trying to appeal to Republicans. And I understand why you're trying to do it. But you're coming out and doing it in such a way where it's like, hey, look, this guy's really bad. Let's just get rid of him and we'll do a start over. Just put me in power. It doesn't work that way. You're asking Republicans to go against and conservatives to go against their ideals because they don't like this guy. But fundamentally, Trump's been pretty conservative, right? Conservative judges, take away the chaos and the craziness. Look at the actions. And he's been pretty conservative. You're asking them, because you don't like who he is as a human being, to go against that. But what you're going to bring in isn't stuff that they're going to believe in. It isn't going to be conservative judges. It isn't going to be pro-life. It's going to be more regulation. It's going to be more taxes. It's going to be more of a global kind of feel to it. It's going to be all kinds of things that they kind of go against. Sorry, that's a tough thing. Even if they can't stand Trump. And it's tough because people want to just put everything together. This person's evil. But when you look at the actions over the words, that's a tough thing. I get it. I'm just over the chaos. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson shows your Twitter. Boomer Naturals. I told you masks are going to be here. Face coverings, they're not going anywhere. I think they're going to be part of how we live for more than a while. And I think when and if COVID-19 is eventually treated with therapeutics or whatever it is, I still think people are going to say, you know what? During flu season, things of that nature. So what are you doing to protect yourself? How about this? Boomer Naturals has their 30-day use face coverings made from 3 layers of hypoallergenic material, 65% cotton, 35% polyester. It's a blended material. Each face covering is treated with nano-silver technology, which is amazing, right? Plus, it's antibacterial, antiviral protection, lasts on the cloth for up to 30 days. So you just take it home, you wash it, warm water and soap, let it air dry, and away you go. You can use it for 30 days, suitable for all day wear. Will cover your nose and your mouth. And the beauty of it is it comes in kid sizes and adult sizes. It's not a one size fits all, which never really works. Boomer Naturals has it, and it's incredible. Now's your chance to get some and save big. Go to boomernaturals.com. Use the code CHAD20. You're going to save 20% plus get free shipping on all orders over $50. That's boomernaturals.com. Boomernaturals.com. Code CHAD20 saves you 20%. Take your family's health into your own hands. Order your 30-day use face coverings now. Boomernaturals.com. Code CHAD20. Chad Benson Show.
I, you, he, she, it. Lucy is a girl.
Point of personal privilege, please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Shut up, boo. Ain't nobody got time for that.
This is the Chad Benson Show.
It's just more for baseball to consider than it has already. And if it wants to be the first professional sport in America, first major professional sport to come back, then this week is going to be absolutely seminal.
Yep, huge, massive. Jeff Passan right there, ESPN, talking about baseball, what it needs to do. How can they get past this hurdle? What is the hurdle?
Owners have talked about having cash flow issues, and one way to alleviate cash flow issues is for players to defer money to the future. Now, they want these monies paid with interest, so it is deferrals with sort of a twist on it. But that being said, it opens the door potentially for more deferrals in an MLB proposal back to the Players Association.
So it's always about money. And that's why I said the funny thing is, and the difference between the NFL and NBA and the NHL is, first of all, Major League Baseball, they didn't have anything. Season hadn't started yet. NFL, season hasn't started. They're trying to figure out, how do we get back on the field? How do we make sure that we get there? What do we do? They're talking about money. The NBA is trying to figure out how they get back out there. What do they do? The NHL is the same way. Major League Soccer, golf. Their plans are put in place. Money is a secondary issue, not with baseball. Baseball is looking at it only from the viewpoint of, how can we get ours? Make sure that we get ours. And what if there is none?
To not get a deal done, the consequences are almost unthinkable. It probably would spin baseball into a long cycle of labor problems. Because remember, if there is no baseball in 2020 and the coronavirus is still manifesting in the spring of 2021, they'd have to come up with agreements then. The collective bargaining agreement is set to expire in December 2021.
Yeah. And I think there's a chance we may not see baseball. And there's a good chance we may not see baseball for a long time. How do I feel about that? Are other sports coming back? Because if hockey's coming back, and NBA's coming back, and soccer's already back around the world, and the NFL and college football are coming back, if I don't see baseball, I don't care. No sweat. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. You can text the program as well. People are texting in about Trump. Chad, it's not fair that you say that he tweeted that thing out. Doesn't make him a racist. Or why didn't you make a big deal about Biden? Or why does, when he said, look, I made it, I don't make a big deal about any of this stuff. Right? I don't overreact to anything Trump does because I never let somebody like that be that much of a big deal in my life. Too many people are caught up in the craziness of politics, and they allow the emotion to rule the day. Do I think Trump can be an a-hole? Absolutely. I think Biden can be one? Sure. They're human beings. Do I think they have missteps? Yes. Do I care what they say? I live my day, and I live my life in my world. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
So when you burn down this city, you're burning down our community. If you want change in America, go and register to vote. Show up at the polls on June 9th. Do it in November. That is the change we need in this country. You are disgracing our city. You are disgracing the life of George Floyd and every other person who has been killed in this country. We are better than this.
Angry. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mayor of Atlanta. Why? Because she's watching her city catch fire. She's watching buildings being destroyed. She's watching things happen because people are pissed and angry, but there's a lot of people out there who are just there to cause hell and havoc. They're just there to cause chaos. They're not there to change anything. They're not there to do anything. They ain't going to vote. For some of the Antifa likes who are out there because they feel this is a great way of tearing down the system, they don't have anybody in this race come November that they care about. For others, they just don't care. They're there to cause hell and havoc. The conversation, which we should be having, about George Floyd, about race in America, is not being happened at all. We're not having that at all. And the reason's pretty simple. Because people decided, hey, let's just burn some stuff. Let's beat some people up. Let's break some things. Let's steal some stuff. Let's light some things on fire. And there you go. Okay to be pissed. Okay to be angry. Okay to protest. But when you cross a certain line, it becomes arson. It becomes assault. And in some cases, it becomes murder. We've lost the conversation. And what happens is the people that look at this and say this was an injustice, this was awful, this was horrible, this cannot happen, it should not happen in this modern day and any day, but it should not happen today. It should not happen. Guess what? When stuff starts to go like this and it goes south fast and we see people out there destroying things, we see people out there lighting things on fire, we see people out there beating people up, we see people out there looting, rioting, all of a sudden the conversation change and people go, well, I don't want to have the conversation anymore. And that's not good.
This is not the legacy of civil rights in America. This is chaos, and we're buying into it. This won't change anything. We're no longer talking about the murder of an innocent man. We're talking about how you're burning police cars on the streets. Go home.
She's right. Go home. And most people, a majority of the people, are peaceful. And a good portion of the people that are doing this are not angry young black men and women, but are chaos-seeking cuckoos who show up at every opportunity. They don't care what it is people are protesting about. They're showing up, and their whole thought process is, how can we turn this from peaceful to chaos? That's what a lot of this is. 20-something suburbanites, white kids, pissed off and angry at the system. Are there people that are out there from within the community that are angry and have done some stuff? Yes. But a lot of this, no. And then you've got other people out there, even some crazy loonies on the right that are out there who are trying to egg stuff on and get stuff going because, well, why not? It's ridiculous. We should be having a conversation. We should be having a real conversation in this country about race, not where we demonize one another. See, when you start out, and I get this every day, where the first thing out of somebody's mouth is not even, hey, I don't agree with what you say. It's, you're a moron, you're blanketing this, you're blanketing that, I hate you, and then they want to have a conversation. When you start that quote-unquote conversation that you want to have with somebody with an insult, you're not having a conversation. What we need to do, this old saying, are you hearing or are you listening? Listening and hearing are two different things. Hearing is the physical act. You hear a noise, you hear some sound, you hear words. That's the physical side of hearing. going in, reverberation, all of that stuff. On the other side is listening. Listening is, I'm taking in what you're saying. I'm hearing what you're saying, but I'm also taking it in. I'm dissecting it. I'm trying to understand. We have a lot of people out there who hear and don't listen. And that's on both sides of the aisle. That's on both sides of the aisle. But if we're going to have conversations in this country that need to be had in a real way, that we can recognize the differences, we can understand that we may not agree with each other's take, but we can also understand that we all want to get to the same place, right? We all want to have security for our family. We want to be to live a life where there's opportunity. We want to be able to send our kids to school where we don't have to worry about stuff. We all want the same thing. We may disagree on the road that we want to take. We all kind of want to get there. Last I checked. But when we start out the conversation with you're horrible, you're awful, you're blankety blank, it's not conversation. You're angry for the sake of being angry, and you're going to scream and yell. And we can't have that. If we want to move forward, we have to do it in the right way. We have to do it in a real way. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. You can text the program as well. All of that being said, we're still in the middle of a pandemic, and I was just telling producer Phil, I don't know how many videos I've seen in the last, 72 plus hours, including one a little while ago on CNN where you see a bunch of people out there, and very few of them have masks, and this thing's still going on.
COVID crossing yet another alarming milestone. 6 million cases reported worldwide, and with more than 100,000 deaths in the U.S. so far, a warning from the CDC predicting that the U.S. could pass 115,000 deaths in less than 3 weeks.
That's still real. We're still trying to figure out how we open this thing up. And while that's all going on, we're dealing now with unrest around the country that we haven't seen in a long time. And it is ugly. It is very ugly. And it is growing. And I don't think today is, and the perfect storm that allows this to happen partially is COVID. People are home. People are watching the news. People aren't working. Some because they can't. They've been told, hey, your position right now, we can't work. We're not allowed to. Others are furloughed or fired, or their positions don't even exist and never will exist again for that company. So they're trying to figure out where they go next. They're seeing these numbers, not quite sure exactly what's going to happen. It is the perfect storm. And we're still trying to figure out how do we open up. And this thing hasn't gone anywhere. And still out there, and we're watching people walk around, and we're thinking, every right to freely assemble, and damn Skippy, you should be. And at the same time, 2 weeks ago was all lives matter. We got to stay home. Now it's Black Lives Matter. But hold on. I think, wow, what's going to happen? What happens if 6 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, we have a huge spike? It'll slowly but surely start to happen. It was interesting. The Atlanta mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, who you just heard there, upset and pissed, said, wait, hold on a second. I forgot something.
Yesterday, around 11:30 last night, I realized that I hadn't looked at our coronavirus numbers in 2 days. And that's frightening because it's a pandemic and people of color are getting hit harder. I am extremely concerned when we are seeing mass gatherings, and we know what's already happening in our community with this virus, that we're going to see the other side of this in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Is that a possibility? It is. And it's also a possibility it's seasonal, and as things start to warm up, that this thing will be kind of like the flu, where we'll slowly but surely start to see this thing dissipate, and maybe it disappears. We don't know, but I don't think it's gone anywhere, at least not this moment. May be endemic, meaning it may just be here, always. So what's that look like? It's craziness. Think about the beginning of the year and think about now. And we're only halfway through 2020. Oh, my Lord. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You tweet at us. Hung out with my dog Doodle all weekend. Gave him his rough greens. It's $14.95. It's a 14-day jump start. If you love your dogs like I love my dog Doodle, his life is just totally different. He's just, his hips were so bad. He's got these fatty tumors, and when we adopted him, we rescued him, and we thought he was like 4, and we find out he's much older than that. He's had some issues, and tell you what, we tried everything, and we tried rough greens, and rough greens is awesome because he likes his dry food, but there's nothing living. The dry food is meant to what? Be on the shelf for God knows how long. With rough greens, this gives that food the taste it needs. It's not dog food. You sprinkle it on. It has all the live nutrients your dog needs. 25 natural vitamins and minerals, 20 digestive enzymes, omega-3, 6, and 9, 15 powerful strains of probiotics, tons of antioxidants. It's awesome. Simply put, head to tail nutrition for your dog. This is it. Your fur buddy is going to love it and has been missing it. Simple and easy. $14.95. You can do it. Dog can't, but you can. It's a jump start. That's it. Not a lot. And it will be the best thing that you can do for your furry friend to either eliminate or to reduce your dog's pains and aches and give him a new lease on life. Go to roughgreens.com/Chad or call 833-MY-DOG-88. That's RUFFgreens.com/Chad or 833-MY-DOG-88. Rough Greens, we make any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
Set Chad straight. Text the show, 323-538-2423. That's 323-538-CHAD. Someone has to do it. Might as well be you. The Chad Benson Show.
5, 4.
Saturday's launch of a Falcon 9 rocket carrying a Dragon crew capsule couldn't have been much smoother.
Liftoff of the Falcon 9.
The Sunday docking more picture perfect.
Dragon SpaceX docking sequence is complete.
Once inside the International Space Station, Bob Behnken said,
"We're just proud to be a part of the team that got to bring spaceflight back to the Florida coast."
The only apparent bump was the one that Doug Hurley appeared to suffer as he came through the hatch into the ISS.
All the craziness, all the chaos. What's going on from COVID to what's taking place across the country and the protests and riots over the death of George Floyd. This was missed. And it is something we should be talking about. Because when we focus as human beings, the things we can do, it's nuts. It's crazy. It really is. And how far we've come is a relatively short period of time just in the world. Over the weekend, a guy by the name of Robert Waitington died. He was the oldest man living. He was 112 years old. Think about what that guy saw. He was born in 1908. Went through World War I, World War II. There was no cars. Many places there wasn't indoor plumbing still. And he got to witness things that are just, you can't even think about all the stuff that we just take for granted. Refrigeration. Right? Oh, yeah. Women voting. Oh, yeah. Think about some of those things. Movies with sound in color. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that. That's. How about this? Back in the day when he was around, penicillin. What? Bloodletting from leeches. Or you could just go to the store and buy some heroin. Yeah, the store. Prohibition wasn't even around yet. But it was on its way. Women were wearing girdles. Mom and dad would set you up. And racism was real in a much different way than it is today. This guy saw all kinds of stuff. Used to buy gasoline when cars were starting to come around at the pharmacy. You could get your heroin and your gas from the pharmacy. It wasn't a national anthem. And as far as kids went, you could go to school or not go to school because the Labor Act for children wasn't even out yet. That's the kind of that guy saw so many things. Plumbing, but he's come into effect, right? Air travel, space travel, movies that were black and white with no sound, all the way up to movies on your phone. But he also saw a change in the way that we grew as human beings. Women didn't have the right to vote. Now they do. And now, eventually, sooner rather than later, there's going to be a woman as a president. Women leaders all over the globe. African Americans, blacks, talk about real racism in a world divided in ways that we couldn't even imagine. All those things have changed. That guy saw so much stuff. That's why I look at a situation like what took place last week as awful and horrible. But I think too often we focus so much on the negative and never anything positive, because if it bleeds, it leads. And I think we need to get back to realize we're all trying to get to the same place. We may differ in how we're going to get there, but we start having conversations and start maybe thinking to ourselves, we need some work, but it's not as bad as everybody thinks. Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
It's not the racist white person who's in the Ku Klux Klan that we have to worry about. It's the white, liberal, Hillary Clinton supporter walking her dog in Central Park who would tell you right now, oh, I don't see race. Race is no big deal to me. I see us all as the same. But the minute she sees a black man who she has a slight thought against, she weaponized race like she had been trained by the Aryan Nation. A Klans member could not have been better trained to pick up her phone and tell the police it's a black man, African-American man, come get him.
Van Jones, I've always said that when I see people that are out there and they talk about all the white privilege and you never worked hard, you're only successful because you're white, and the guilt, the guilt. I sit there and laugh, and I say, because again, I think Van Jones is something that's very real there. I said last week when that lady, Amy Cooper was her name, she's walking her dog, Central Park. She's out there. She's a bird watcher. Happens to be black. Says to the lady, hey, lady, you know, this area, the ramble here, when you're rambling around, you can't have your dog off the leash. There's another part of the park where you can, so maybe you should take your dog over there. And then she went, and she went off. And I just laughed. I said, neither of them voted for Trump. But Trump will get in trouble for this one. But that's so true. That's the person. I feel guilty because of a lot of things. People will say this.
White people need to stop being silent about our racism and complicit in the structural racist system in which we live and the white supremacy in which this country was built.
The country wasn't built on white supremacy. Are there skeletons in our closet? You betcha. But you can't yes, there is. Did we do things? Yes. That helped build this country? Yeah, absolutely. 110% that were wrong in every single way that you could. I mean, there's just no way other way you can do it. Did they think at the time that this is what you're supposed to do? That this was absolutely it? That the strong conquer the weak? And oh yeah, they thought all kinds of stuff, and they were wrong. They were absolutely wrong. this isn't the 50s and 60s. This isn't 1920s. We've come a long, long way. And we still have a ways to go. Let's not pretend that we don't. But so many times when we can't have this conversation in this country about race because we're too quick to demonize each other. White people, you need to shut up and listen. Okay. Because we're going to tell you how horrible you are and how all of you are the same. And what happens then is people turn off. Right? I don't know what it's like to drive while black, to shop while black. I have no idea. Zero. I wouldn't even pretend to think I know. I grew up in a very diverse neighborhood, yeah. Went to a very diverse school where, as a white dude, there was more people of color than there was in my junior high. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. My junior high was as big as a lot of big high schools. But I don't know what it's like to drive while black, shop while black. I don't know any of that stuff. But you know what I do know? I know what it is to be me. I know what it is to be a white guy. Me. I don't know what's in everybody's heart. I think we always want to say that we want to make these blanket statements that everybody's this and everybody that. You can't do that. You just can't. Hence the reason why we can't have a conversation. An honest one. Because all too often the people that have the conversations or want to lead the conversations hijack the conversation for their own well-being and their pocketbooks. And that's not good. But the conversation starts with you and I every day. People we meet, people we come across, people we work with, people who we serve at church or we serve dinner to or who serve us dinner, restaurants and those are the conversations. That's how we move things forward. But the blanket statements that all this or all that isn't going to fix and isn't going to help drive a conversation and push us in a better place. Here's what I do know. I've grown up in a better time for race relations than my dad, God rest his soul, and mom did. And my grandparents did. And my great-grandparents did. And my son will as well. Better than I have. That's a good thing. But we're all too often only talking about the negative. And after a while, you're like, That's why every conversation and every real conversation that has to happen is an individual conversation. Because the big conversation always gets hijacked. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. You could text the program as well. All of that being said, today is June 1st, and that means rent is due. What will happen? That's a big one because many of those, I guess they were executive orders in most states, are coming to an end. Some came to an end a few weeks ago in places like Texas and several others. Others are coming to an end as early as today. And people are looking up because the coronavirus is still there. We're still in a situation where there is, in every state, some sort of stay-at-home order. Some a little bit more stringent than others. And people are looking up saying, okay, now what?
We just need the rent to be gone if we can't work.
We can't work. We can't pay.
Renters line the streets and circle in cars, calling this rent strike. It's the first day of the month and nearly $50 billion in rent is due in the U.S.
If a lot of us are already choosing between food and rent, we're saying to choose food?
Yeah. Food and rent. But that only goes so long. At some point in time, you've got to pay. At some point in time, these landlords are saying, hey, I understand you're not working, but there are other places that are hiring. Maybe you're getting unemployment. What's going on with that? Think about how many, what they say, more Americans who are on unemployment are actually making more money than they were when they were employed. So what's going on there? Renters are pissed. I understand, but there is an obligation to pay.
Renters are fighting back from this Los Angeles protest to signs of resistance posted across the Midwest, from Chicago to Brooklyn, New York to New Orleans, pledging to not pay. Los Angeles and New York mayors issued no eviction orders, but renters say that's not enough.
If we can't pay that rent and we're in debt, how are we supposed to get out of that debt post-quarantine?
Check out my little 500 square feet, $1,100 a month.
How are you going to pay this $1,100 rent?
I don't know.
But they set it up, and this is something that I think, because I've talked to several people, and it's very interesting. It was like, well, if I don't have to pay, then maybe I won't pay. Not so much on rent, but I've had a couple people that I work with who kind of were like, well, I don't have to pay my car payment. I can get a defer. Like, it's somehow magically these months they're looking, and I'm like, that's weird. And there are other people out there, like I said, majority of Americans right now that are on unemployment, there's a good portion of that are making more money because of the federal kick-in. So let's say you're in a state where you're getting paid, just throwing it out there, $300 a week on unemployment, but you're getting $600 federally. So that's $900 a week on unemployment. And you were making $640 a week. You're making more money. You should be keeping up. And let's not forget the landlords, they got to pay too.
Matthew Heisert sits on the other side as a landlord. He is working with his tenants, but can only do so much.
I have no ability to handle this beyond a couple of months. Someone loses their job. They can no longer afford to pay rent. Follow it through. If I can't pay that mortgage and I have to pay that mortgage at some point, well, that could bankrupt me.
But we live in a world now where you're a bad person. A landlord is evil because it's a lord. They're evil. They're bad. It's not that way. Everybody's got something that's due. And I do think that we're going to find out. A lot of people that have been, same thing with those, they got those $1,200 stimulus checks, only to find out the majority of those people were buying consumer goods. They weren't stocking it away. They weren't paying down bills. It's a choice thing. And yes, there are some people out there that struggle because they're in this weird world where they're not getting unemployment and they are kind of working part-time, and that's an understandable thing. But 40 million people, a good majority of those who have lost their jobs, been furloughed for whatever reason, are getting some form of unemployment. And it's one thing if you were making X amount of dollars. It's another thing if you're the average person and you're making $40,000 a year and you're still on that pace and you're not paying your rent. I feel like, are you making choices? Chad, jerk. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us, text the program as well. Raycon's best earbuds around. Many of you are working at home right now, frustrated because your kids are crazy. And you can hear everything that's going on. So what do you do? What do you do? You got to make that big phone call. You got a Zoom meeting, got all this stuff going on. You know what you do? You get yourself Raycon E25, best ones around. 6 hours of talk time, seamless Bluetooth pairing. And what ends up happening is you put it on, it's got a nice noise isolating fit. So whether you're making that important call on that video conference call, you don't have dangling wires or stems, you can hear everything and they can hear you. It is awesome. It really is. Less than $100. Normally something like these go for $150, $200. Stylish and comfortable and well under $100. Get yours today. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad. That's buyraycon.com/Chad. That's going to save you 15% right there. Buyraycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
Check out our Chad Benson Show Facebook page where you can hang out or hang your grievances out to dry. This is Chad Benson.
They're calling it Blackout Tuesday. Major music labels, including Atlantic Records and Warner and Capitol Music Groups, all joining in a music industry call to make June 2nd, quote, a day to disconnect from work and reconnect with our community, all as a show of solidarity, 1 week after the death in police custody of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Other prominent labels, as well as Apple Music and Spotify, also posted social media messages of support and calls for accountability and change as protests continue across America.
Yeah, protests are, and we're just talking about how people like Van Jones are pissed. They want more celebrities to react, especially the likes of Oprah and you know, P. Diddy and all. And I just sit there and I think, I understand the reaction, and I think they are. I mean, I think we're seeing that across the board that they are reacting. Is it not the way that you want them to react? I feel like there's a sense of you want them to react a certain way, and they're not doing it the way that you want them to. Because there's been a ton of celebrities that have reacted, a ton of them. But like a lot of things, is it how you want it? No, you didn't do it right. We want you to react this way. Well, no, this is what they think. Oh, okay. What I say over the weekend is like, oh, that Kanye no longer gets P. Diddy. They no longer get to be part of the group, I guess, because they didn't react. You know, Kanye's. And I just sit there and I think, oh, my goodness. Just, you can't, doesn't matter, right? It's like even with Trump. As much as Trump drives me crazy at times, and I can compartmentalize, which is tough with Trump, but I can. I compartmentalize. I can look at actions and words. I can look at the way that he plays a game and the media buys into it. But it just, if he tweets something in support, it's bad. If he tweets something that you think is bad, it's bad. If it doesn't matter, right? And that's the way we are. That's the way we are nowadays. We will find something that you did. If you live long enough, there's something you did in the past that is easily worthy of going against what you're doing now, and people will find a way to tear it down. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me, the NFL, Major League Baseball. God only knows what's going to happen there. What about the NBA and the NFL?
I continue to hear from sources that Prescott and the Cowboys are both ready to drag this out to the July 15th franchise tag deadline.
So they're still working on contracts. They're still moving as they're going forward. It looks like that they're going to do everything. And I think across the country, they're looking at certain situations where they would, quote unquote, would play in certain stadiums where they can have a certain amount of capacity, up to 25%, maybe 50%. And this is still a long way away. We don't know anything about the virus in the longevity of it. Maybe it disappears. Maybe there's a second wave. Maybe it's just here always. So that's a possibility. They're still battling contracts, trying to get themselves going, doing Skype calls and going over stuff. Then you got the NBA, which is in the middle of its season. And God only knows what's going to happen.
One of the things that is an issue here is that they have to make a deal with the players. On one hand, the players don't have much leverage because there's an aspect of the collective bargaining agreement that, because of the pandemic, allows the owners to cancel all games and reset their pay schedules. On the other hand, the owners and the league are coming to the players and saying, we want to create this play-in tournament, and we'd like you to all extend your contracts and come play in the middle of the summer in Orlando. And so that's going to require an agreement.
Yeah. And as we all know, as we've seen with sports, agreements don't really always come that easy. So we'll see. Major League Baseball, every day goes further and further. I think they're getting further and further way of doing it. Basketball, I think, will happen in a much different way. NHL, they've laid out their plan, but they're still not certain it's going to happen. I think the NFL is on pace, and last week the NCAA said, hey, we've got a plan for student athletes to return, and so we'll see what that looks like. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me and text the program as well. Check out the Instagram. Have yourself a safe and wonderful day. Be kind to one another. Say hi to one another. Don't do anything stupid. We'll do it again tomorrow. Night-night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.